Hola community, it's Pablo Vazquez with another episode of Blender Today Q&A. Blender, yeah, it's a Q&A. 112 episodes. Do we really need a Q&A every week? I looked up the questions we have for today, and there are some that are actual questions, many feature requests, which if I don't have developers near me, it's hard to give an answer really. So I'm gonna try and give my point of view in some of them and maybe point to the ones that I know are under development or some that could be under development. But let's get started. So here, Blender.Today is a community that hosts this show on the Blender YouTube channel. Here you're gonna find the thread where to ask the questions. Let me give you here the link just so you get to answer it. I'm gonna try and answer the 20 more requested questions of the week. I've been really busy during the week. I've been busy with I'm going to the studio nowadays. I'm working actually at the Blender studio, so I didn't have a lot of time to actually go through the questions. I even made another live stream here while we get some more questions in. I did another live stream here in the Blender Foundation YouTube channel on here on Blender Today, Blender Everyday. I made a new playlist for Blender Everyday, and in the last episode of Blender Everyday, I interviewed the man Heavy Poly Von Ling. So if you haven't seen it, please go check it out because it's really fun. We get to hang out. We even in the comments there were some like they like the nice chemistry. It's, yeah, we work together. Maybe that's why it shows. We were working on this project that we talked about in this episode. All right. After that, I also been working on some Blender.org stuff and a little bit of everything. Let's start with the questions, shall we? All right. Questions. I'm gonna be reading the chat. I'm reading the chat right now, but I also try and answer as much as let's try to make it a mix. Like here, let's start with the very first question by Nikita Nikiforov. Hi Pablo. Hola. Any chances for implementation of this proposal? And it's a link of right-click select. Let's see. UV mark straight. It's very helpful when islands borders and some insides are aligned horizontally or vertically. It allows you to pack islands more tightly, make baking and texturing more convenient, and it avoids problems with aliasing in game engines. Therefore, it would be great to have it possible to apply a mark straight command to the UV edges, which will be aligned. It would be better if this is done via the visible unfold or selected UV islands or vertices, so that the islands remain in place. It's pretty neat. So it's dynamic. So you basically mark the edges that you want to be straight, either horizontally or vertically. I guess it should guess at some point. And then what happens if you try to deform an edge that is marked as straight? Can you rotate it? Maybe if you rotate really hard. It's very coverage 75%, 65%. Yes, makes sense. I love this kind of tools. And there has been some improvements on the UV editor for 2.9. So this would, yeah, it will definitely be a good option. What was the rest of the comment? I think it's more effective and more Blender style than the method in this task. Let's see. Straighten edges and unfold UV island. Straighten selection. Yes, this is a proposal by Daniel Beisted. And desired results. So such as approach, store, runs in from islands, removal pins, pin selection, align, unwrap, restore. The selection is straightened and the non-selected UVs of the island is unwrap. Should work on multiple UV islands. So it's a mix. It straightens and also unwraps at the same time. I should check. Yeah, we should check in the description. We could check even with Daniel Beisted about it. But I kind of like the interactive approach of your proposal here. The fact that you can mark and then I guess you can also unmark them as straight, so you can twist some parts and not all the other parts. I don't know if this, I think this is just an edit. It's not a mark. It's destructive, I guess, in that way, because it's marked as straighten. Yeah, I like it. We should combine it. Maybe, and also this is a design task, so it's not like a patch already. It's just a design open for discussion. So we should just share this with only in February. We should share this with Daniel Bysted to see what he thinks. But I personally love the feature. I like it that it's Blender style. Yes, I like when things are in a style. All right, so let's see. Second question, McCourt009. Hi Pablo, can you tell us about the involvement from some of the bigger corporate sponsors on the development fund? Are companies like Nvidia, AMD, Epic, and Ubisoft making any of their own Blender branches lately, or is it just monetary donations? Thanks. So what Kurt is talking about is the financial support that these companies offer to Blender via the Blender Development Fund. So Epic Mega Grants, AMD, Nvidia, and all the bigger ones. So this kind of support, it's mainly monetary. Like it's mainly like just like, okay, here's some money, do what you can enjoy. Like it really doesn't have any, it's not tied to any project in particular, which is a great thing for Blender, because Blender can define the goals, but also it's hard for companies to be just like, okay, here's some money, do whatever, instead of just asking for something in return. But the best approach, I think, is to have both. To have a company providing just like, here's money, do and you are doing great, so enjoy it. Like for example, Epic did. They gave the mega grant to Blender, the 1.2 million over I think 3-4 years or so. So it's not like all in one go, but it allows Blender to invest in this like over time. Also to make the Blender code better and more approachable for other developers and other companies to contribute. Part of that money was already discussed. Actually, we talked about it. I even interviewed Ton in this Blender Epic Mega Grant. I interviewed Ton in Blender.Today, which you might find Blender.Today Epic here. You're gonna find it. I interviewed Ton. We discussed about it, about the Epic Mega Grant, and he mentions that the money he was going to be used mainly for things that are not the most prettiest in the world. It's not like just this fancy new editor, but it's more like, okay, let's clean up the Blender code, refactor it in a way that it's easier for other developers and companies to help and to get get involved. And I think it's a really great way to invest the money, because you never have, usually when you have a bit of money, you try and invest it in big, awesome features that will sell. But it's hard to say, we have $1,000 and then, okay, let's spend all of it in cleaning. So yeah, in this case, for example, that's what happened with Epic. But AMD in the past also has contributed with code, and Nvidia in the last release, for example, they contributed with the optics, the denoiser, the optics denoiser, and in the past with CUDA improvements. So Nvidia has this developer that is working on it. Then Ubisoft, for example, also they are contributing to as the development fund, but also with their own development. They discussed even Ubisoft in-depth talk. You're gonna find the thread. Let me see if I can find it here. Ubisoft Animation Studio VR development discussion. So the people at Ubisoft made this thread to discuss the VR development that they are working on. So that is also a great way to contribute. And Intel as well. Intel, well, the open image denoise, for example, that was also added by them, and a whole lot of other work. Embark, the Embark Studios is also looking into develop for Blender stuff. Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix. I guess the one where you can probably test will be Ubisoft once they share the stuff, but Nvidia is the one that has added like tangible things lately in the branch in Blender Master. Next question, Kiriller Mashonok. Hi Pablo, recently I saw that Blender is going to get OpenSubdiv support in 2.91. What? OpenSubdiv has been there since 2.7 actually, the last 2.7 something. At some point Blender Subsurf changed from the regular open source Subsurf to the new Subsurf, OpenSubdiv, Subsurf. And what exactly is things that you see? Oh, maybe because you saw it in the in the code blog, code.blender.org, the projects or the modules roadmap. So maybe you saw OpenSubdiv in the viewport or somewhere over here. There are some that say OpenSubdiv. There are some roadmaps that say OpenSubdiv, but basically that is performance improvements, making it faster, and fixing it, and GPU support also. So I really really excited and looking forward to it. Actually, this is the only reason why I still use Maya. But I have one question, two actually. Have you seen the models Mesh Fusion? No, I haven't. Will there ever be such a feature in Blender? This is the first time I hear about it, so let's see it. Mesh Fusion. It's like box cutter or like hardops, right? It's like using another mesh to perform operations. So here you select. Cutters can be rigged and deformed. Ah, yeah, box cutter. Will be awesome to have that in Blender, like natively. Wow, yeah, that's super nice. For that, we need a better way. We either need the box cutter, but also we need the well, actually, Pablo de Barro has been working on a trim tool for Sculpt, which is kind of in that direction where you can trim and do stuff. However, one of the showstoppers for that feature to be in Master is the lack of a nice Booleans in Blender. Booleans are in Blender, they're there, but they will be better. There is a branch that is being worked on. You can find it in developer.blender.org. It's called New Boolean, and it's you need to compile it though. So to see it, but here you can see. Oh wow, look at that. This is recent, July 12th on Sunday. Poor Howard, working on a Sunday night, even at night. Large refactor of New Boolean to prepare for performance tuning. So he's been working really hard on this. I'm happy that you see he's so active lately with the, because Booleans, when this gets added, it's gonna affect everything, add-ons, Blender itself in tools, and yeah, you can have many more options. But yeah, I imagine there will be something like this in the future. Sculpting too, yes. I'll read in the comments. Let's see. Quark in Atom. Some time ago, hello, by the way. Some time ago, Ram Singh Crossmind Studio found a bug or perhaps a simulation system change while comparing 2.83 Mantaflow with 2.82. Did anyone found a reason why this change bug was happening? Was it fixed? While using the latest Blender, I feel like it hasn't been fixed yet. My results are pretty much like 2.83 from that comparison video. I would suggest whenever this happens to just make a bug report. Don't like, yeah, making a video, it's fine, but the really is it's not that you have to jump a lot of loops and hoops for getting in touch with the Blender developers. Really, if you go to the Blender chat, you can say exactly this, but to them, and just ask them. I didn't read this earlier though, otherwise I could have just asked the developer Sebastian that is working really next to me. But yeah, I should have maybe asked. But for example, this was it fixed? While using 2.83, I feel like it hasn't been fixed yet. This kind of comments really. Blender is super approachable. It's probably the most approachable kind of big software out there, because really literally you can tweet at people, you can comment, you have dev talk, you have the Blender developers, you have a Blender chat where in European work hours you can find developers talking about it every day, and on Mondays you have the meetings. Even you can see them talking about the plans for what's happening, when it's going to change. So this yeah, every time I say this, maybe I sound a little bit grumpy sometimes in the comments around. It's like they haven't fixed it yet, or have they? And like if it wasn't easy to just go to the chat and ask the right people about it. Of course, not like everybody should just go and just ask for features, because otherwise that would scare them away to the developers. But for these kind of things, it's just better to just, you know, and ask in the right channels, or just report the bug. Just report the bug. Hey, there is this difference. Is it okay? Is it normal or not? And that's how things get fixed. Let's see. Hello, Pablo. I would like to ask for a few animation requirements. So it's not the Blender Q&A. This is the Blender feature request. The right-click select show. That would be an interesting, you know, a show where you actually go through right-click select proposals and talk about it. Wouldn't that be nice? I just thought about it. Maybe make smart and wrap multi-threaded, because there are some threads that are actually pretty well done. Like, look at this. Already you can tell that it's well done by currently, and the issue, and then the comment, and descriptions. Some of them are not totally the highest level. This one, for example, add a confirmation prompt to the delete shortcut for consistency. The moment you add this, there will be someone asking remove the pop-up, the confirmation, because yeah, that's one of those features that are really polarized. But yeah, what else? Workbench cavity overlay in Blender, in Eevee. No, Eevee should support pointiness. You shouldn't have cavity overlay. Otherwise, cycles should support cavity overlay. I mean, things should be done for both engines at the same time. We shouldn't be... well, I got sidetracked, but we shouldn't be doing things for the one branch, one engine. We should do it for both. For all of them. Let's see. So okay, let's go through the feature request. Loopable keyframe jumps in Blender using the up down arrow. It goes to either end of the keyframes and stops. This should be a preference, I guess. Keying multiple controls objects at the same time. Yes, you can key multiple objects, but maybe from the sliders, no, you can't. You have to add it through. Like if you select multiple objects and then use a shortcut, yeah, that works. Cycle modifier works only one channel per object. If this can be applied to multiple objects or channels, will be good. I agree. Graph editor curves, editing multiple keys, time values. Yes, I guess so. Multiple keys and time values. Like with like selecting multiple keys and having their values exposed, maybe on the sidebar or something like that. Yeah, but we don't do that anywhere else in Blender, so we should be very careful in how we expose that, because if we do it for curves, it should also be done for channels, it should also be done for objects, transforms. We should try to be consistent there. For gizmos, I use the tilde pie menu, so the shift spacebar can be used for views. It's kind of my preference, but when we use one key to switch between the manipulator, gives better workflow. I didn't get this part a lot, But so it's basically changing a shortcut for views. Is his preference or her preference. There's a lot of features I love in Blender, like using different pivot points while animating on the flow, cycle aware keying, and they are super cool. Thank you. Thank you. Hey Pablo, I made this post on right click select. Like, how many are we going, by the way? Sorry, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, 1/4 in. I made this post on right click select a while ago. Any chance you can tell me if something like this will be implemented into Blender anytime soon? Thanks. In short, it's the ability to increase the click detection area of all the transform manipulator gizmo handles without increasing their visual size, as they require pinpoint accuracy at the moment, and changing the scale tools outer circle from being full billing field to just inner and outer in ring selection. Let's see the proposal. Customizable transform manipulation click detection. So let's see. So, well, it's kind of a long proposal. The right click select show it will be very long if it happens. And the issue is right now, as indicated in the image below, you have to almost pinpoint accurately click on the axis or dual axis manipulator handle. So basically this is too tiny, I guess. My cursor is indicated as a triangle as print screen did not capture the cursor. I propose having the ability to toggle off the outer circle. On some maybe, most people like it, but I'm sure there are others who, like myself, do not. So the outer circle, and as Blender is kind of customizable if it's the user case. Okay, so this would be kind of the action area. I think even with this option on, this should be bigger. Like the action area shouldn't be just the 1 pixel, but it should be larger. That I completely agree. Should be bigger. And also because if one day Blender has like more better support for touch screens, then you can have 3 pixels wide widgets. Yeah, they have to be much larger at least, so big fingers can click on it, tap on it. Yeah, I wouldn't make it customizable. I would just like go and full on make it bigger, because I don't think it makes any sense for it to be tiny. And there is usually plenty of room for having for clicking the, like, for example, if you have that, like there is plenty of room here. So if this was bigger, yeah, it's tiny. It's like, it's literally 3 pixels. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I personally don't use this. I use shortcuts, but I think it should be supported. I've seen a lot of people using these widgets, so it should be larger. Let's see. I remember back when those arrows were added, I was like, this is stupid. Why would I want to do that? It's so slow. I was maybe like, I don't know, 17 when that was added, 16. Hi Pablo, are there any plans in the future for texture painting, or any chance of having the brush behave like it does in sculpt or vertex paint mode? And this really announced something to have. This is the only area in Blender that hasn't changed in a while. No, I think the NLA would like to have a word with you, or the sequencer is not really that, or the, you know who would like to have a word with you? The texture editor, the most forgotten area here, texture node editor. This wins by far the most abandoned area of all of Blender. I don't know how I even made it in 2.8, because it's just, I don't know. It should be fixed eventually, but let's see. Are there any plans in the future for texture painting? Yes, there are. Actually, in Blender 2.9, there is the experimental option to paint vertex paint in sculpt mode. So if you go to experimental, you can enable sculpt vertex colors, and you're gonna find the sculpt mode also has some painting tools. This is work in progress. It's expected to fail and to not always like work as expected. The UI is different because it has to be here. It has to be it's a different kind of vertex color. It has its own panel, so it needs some work in the user interface side of things. That's why it's also experimental. But yeah, it's being worked on. So yay, good news. So I think it was 5, 6, 7. Hi Pablo, got some question for the Blender team. Any chance to have a local simulation dropping mode for cloth sims? Or dragging. Drop. My English is terrible, sorry. What I mean with local simulation mode is some kind of localized cloth simulation for draping. Draping is a word then. Sorry. Drape. Oh yay! Drape garment. Yes. I don't know if I should click here. Yes. Oh yeah, this is beautiful. I learned a new word. Achieving plus grab cloth like in the sculpt cloth brush, but without playing the timeline, and the simulation only happened on the selected object. Actually, what you are describing is exactly what we have in 2.9 with the new oops. If you go to sculpt, in sculpt mode there is the new filter for cloth, so you can go to cloth filter, and then when you, for example, let me mask something. So if I mask this bit over here and then I do cloth filter, you're gonna see that the more I click, the more it changes the overall simulation. You have a few settings here for the strength, for the cloth mass. It has a few options for inflate, expand. So inflate, it will inflate it like, oops, like with the direction, with 2 different directions. Oh, that's nice. Okay, let's see this way, and then I'm gonna do some masking here. Let's see, tiny, less zone. I don't know how this is gonna look, but let's see how it looks. So cloth filter, ooh, no, the other way. Ha, nice. All right, so yeah, this is more or less what I guess what you're saying about having a simulation local to the mesh without actually having to run the simulation in any time. So pretty nice. Tomato tutorial, yes, exactly, in the chat. Welcome to my tomato tutorial. Shall we go full tomato? Shall we go full tomato? Or you never go full tomato. So I'm gonna like that, and then I have to render, of course, and it's this like super scatterish. So there, and what else? Specular. And then he has like a clear code. Okay, I add clear codes to everything, which is like the second level of it's like a car paint, but it's like a second level of specularity. Okay, nobody asked me to do this. All right, let's go! Yay! Second, any chance for adding a GPU cloth simulation? Yes, actually, there is some work being done on the cloth sim GPU side of things, but I haven't looked at the patch recently. I should ask. Sebastian Pablo is working on it, which is also working in front of me. I'm surrounded by Sebastians at work. I have Sebastian Pablo in front and Sebastian Vazquez. I always confuse it with the Vazquez with my last name, but it's Vazquez. So yeah, let's see. Next question. So Guro, nice name. How many are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 questions. Number 9. So please consider adding an option to disable material preview icons. They are 16 by 16 pixels and can hog the RAM if you have multiple AK textures. I had countless PC crashes due to this. The icons are mostly useless if you have your materials named properly, and adding an option to disable them altogether shouldn't be that hard to do. Actually, yes, I had issues like this in the past. I completely agree with you. The preview for this tiny preview over here, if you name your objects properly, it's really even though it is optimized in a way, it's calculated in a separate thread, so it's not like blocking whatever you're doing here, but it's still being calculated at some point, so why even calculating it? The option for removing it, yes, maybe when we have the asset manager though, we are going to need this kind of, and they're probably going to be more useful, but yeah, I agree with you that having it even on images this tiny doesn't really make a lot of sense. But the asset manager is going to render them a little bit bigger. Alright, so Pablo, is there a way to develop a modifier that bevels just the result of a Boolean modifier? To develop a modifier, well, yeah, there are ways. It's open source, so I guess there are ways. But a modifier that bevels just the result of a Boolean modifier. Well, if you put the Boolean before, the bevel will apply to that result, but it will also apply to everything underneath. Yeah, you are limited by that. It's a stack, it's a modifier stack. So until we don't have the modifier nodes, then it's hard to see how it will work. I don't even know how would that work, but yeah. Everything tomatoes. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. This is number 10. So, and they don't have any votes anymore, so let me go to the bottom to start from the ones that were asked first, to be fair with those. Hey Pablo, do you ever think of reintroducing a method to have slow parents? Slow parents was very hacky. I'm not sure about the internals of the current system of the dependency graph. Maybe it supports it, but it was really hacky. A slow parent, it wasn't very reliable. If you send it to a farm, it would be a tiny bit of a lottery to have it working. So for those young souls that don't remember this, Blender used to have an option called slow parents, and it doesn't mean that your parents are slow and they left you in the aisle of a supermarket while you were... No, okay, no, never mind. Though, if you have a two objects, you could do parent. You can basically just like Ctrl+P and make a parent, right? That is awesome. So you have them and goes with it. The option, it was on an object level, I believe, and it has some like relation extras. How can you call it extras? That means that it's not really well thought out what to add in there. It's like extras. And then it even worse, these two buttons, super illegal. These were added when things wouldn't work in the farm, for example, or locally if you had weird like dependencies. This would force to trigger the dependency graph even when it's not necessary. So yeah, it's a hack. It's a really bad hack. And the same for data. So the slow parent option would mean that if you animate an object, for example, I think it worked this way, and then you had a slow parent, this could be this could offset the time of the children. So if you have, so you see, do you see the difference? So ooh, nice. But look, I press escape and then went back and the cube is here. Even though if I press G and go back, it probably will go back to its, yes, to its place. I'm pressing G now and look how it's moving. Look at that. It's so hacky. It's horrible. How can we want this back? We eventually will come back, but it's just, it's so flaky. Eventually, no, it wouldn't. No, why would I'm saying that it will come back eventually? It's eventually there should be a way to achieve this in maybe some other more reliable way of working, maybe with the interactive mode, or maybe with nodes, something like that, maybe. But yeah, you can see how hacky it was in 2.7. That's one of the reasons to get rid of it in 2.8. Do you plan to reintegrate in the future some keyboard shortcuts removed at 2.8? Some of the shortcuts actually have been coming back, but no, there is not the plan to just reintegrate shortcuts again, unless they are like extremely needed. But we already been in 3 releases and 4 with the current one, and we really haven't heard from the community like a big missing this or that shortcuts in particular. I think we the shortcuts that were removed or changed, they were done very consistently. I think I personally believe in that, having, you know, Control N to always make a new file, or like changing the selection to Alt and Alt A to deselect and all of that. I think it's very consistent, and I think it's a good thing that we did it. But we should try to only introduce the ones that were, you know, like really needed. And also we should work on a better Keymap editor. A better Keymap editor is gonna remove all of this need for like bringing back shortcuts or not or whatever, because it will just not be a pain as it is right now to add a shortcut. The current Keymap editor in Blender it's like this far from being a nightmare, or almost a nightmare. Okay, it could be worse. We could just not have one to start with, but okay, hey, we have it. It's just very confusing because it's you have some preferences up here, but if you use a different mode, then you lose those. A different Keymap, then you lose those. Okay, so you have to have this one, and it's split into sections, and then there's like all the shortcuts in the rainbow, which is split by modules sometimes, but also viewed to the buttons list. Why? What that naming? What view 2D? Then mesh, curvature. Mesh is for mesh editing, but then you also have, yeah, paint face mask, weight vertex texture, and then weight vertex. It's just terrible. So this needs to be reorganized. There is a thread, a design task on developer.blender.org that is trying to tackle this. But I also believe, I think we don't have that split there, but I personally think that we should split the Keymap editor in parts, in blocks. So accessing the tool is one thing, but navigating in the viewport, it shouldn't be next to all the other options. It's its own thing, I think. So you may want to use the viewport navigation from ZBrush or Maya, but you still want to use the shortcuts for the tools and operators from Blender. Maybe. I think that would make following tutorials easier. And navigation is something that is very, you do it all the time. So if you're used to in another softwares, you don't want to change everything. You don't want to change the viewport navigation and all the shortcuts. Maybe you just want one of them. So yeah. Let's continue. How's the chat going? The keyboard in Lightwave is good, apparently. Haven't seen it. Are you from France? No, I'm from Argentina. I'm from Patagonia. All right, let's see the second question, or 12th question. Since Blender will move to Vulkan, are there any plans to have a Python VVK module, just like VGL? Or will we ask to use only the GPU module? Actually, I asked this question to Jeroen, and he came and replied very nicely to it. So thank you, Jeroen, for taking the time to answer this question. But yeah, basically, if I what he mentioned is that everything that is being drawn now in the UI in Blender is using a module called GPU. So that would be that is more abstract. It's not GL or Vulkan, but Vulkan will use the GPU module. So yeah, everything will happen through this module. And for the more info from actual developer Jeroen, you can read this thread. So thank you, and thank you, double heart. Let's see. Damian, number 13. Hi Pablo, how are you? Are you back to the studio? I am back to the studio. I'm back pretty much every day, except when I have to do videos. I'm still doing the videos at home. But yeah, maybe I could start doing it at the studio, but I'll have to make the room nicer. In one of your last live streams, you mentioned that you might travel to London someday soon. Will you be streaming? How about having a beer with the community? I'd love to join in. Well, I was supposed to go to London last year. I went to London for the Blender London Day. So wow, it even shows up here, 11 July 2020. So yes, the Blender London Day, I went for last year's, but this year it just, yeah, Corona happened, so it's been cancelled basically. I was there last year and I was hoping I could be there this year, but not happening, unfortunately. Is it possible to travel to the UK even from other parts from Europe, from other parts of Europe? Because of yeah, if I go there and I have to stay 2 weeks in quarantine, then not much of fun. Number 13, I guess, right? This was 13. 14. Sup the Blender team, are you guys planning on new animation tools? Yes, the Blender, the animation module, you can follow the development actually in the code blog. Yes, code Blender.org. The modules roadmap, you're gonna find the animation and rigging module that is focused on performance, visual keying for 2.81 hopefully, and just improving it all together. You can read more on the mailing list, on the actual project itself, where you can find more to see exactly what's going on. There is a chat module in Blender Chat, animation module room in Blender Chat that is open for everybody. And in the workboard here on the left, you're gonna find the actual things that are the backlog of features and bugs and what's coming for 2.90. What is the long-term improvements, the bugs, the to-dos, the known issues, the design. So here, lots of info to see what's going on with the animation and rigging module, and this applies for every module in Blender. So when in doubt, go check that one. 14. I remember, like, I say the number and I forget it after reading the question. So Roland, hello Pablo, recently in connection with the improvements in the modifiers, you asked where else it might make sense to introduce drag and drop. Yes, because this drag and drop that happens, I made a bunch of videos about it, but basically allows you to drag something and then reaching the end of the editor and it will work. So the question is, where else do we need it? So let's see. Drag and drop for material slots. Yes, we can't drag and drop inside UI lists. Actually, what I was asking for drag and drop, I was asking mainly of the drag and drop feature of the here, the how do you call it, the drag and translate of the UI and scroll of the UI. But yeah, drag and drop material slots, the possibility to change the order of materials respectively a material slot within the slot list by dragging and dropping. It would be nice, yes, but this applies to every UI list. This, what you see here, this kind of widget, it's called a UI list inside of Blender, and it's used and shared by multiple parts of Blender: vertex groups, shape keys, face maps, really vertex color, UV map, and materials among them. Some of them allow you to change the order, some of them don't. Some of them don't have that option, like UV map, you can't change the order. I don't know exactly why, but it must be a reason, I guess. But yeah, it should be applied to everything where possible. Another user suggested this for the grease pencil layers. Let's see. Drag and drop support for grease pencil layers. Yes, this can be reordered, so it would be nice to have that. So basically, they're all very similar UI elements, and it will make sense to consider a corresponding update. Yes, actually, this is not the first time this is proposed. The Blender UI is known for not being extremely the code, not for the UI. It's known for not being extremely user-friendly, and it's in need of a cleanup. Not user-friendly, but developer-friendly. So it's in need for a cleanup, and hopefully we can get this kind of sorting added soon-ish. We have the magic that that recently we had the luck to have Hans Goody working on improvements in the UI, and that drag and drop thingy, he did it. This modifiers drag and drop, he did it as well. So it really it's nice to have someone working on that, but he only has 24 hours a day, unfortunately. So yeah, let's hope we can see it soon. I don't even know how many questions, 15 maybe. Matt Fagan, I was wondering, when it comes to the developers making new features, do the developers actively try using other popular softwares when comparing their own implementations, or they just read about a tool and its function and therefore implement that feature without understanding what made it better in another software package? With this, I feel like one common thing happening to its newest features is that there are too many click step operations to get from A to B when activating a tool or initiating a process. Will there be a focus on refining Blender over time with its features to have fewer clicks? Any news regarding retopology? Get its own mode? No news regarding retopology. Can Autodesk Maya Retopo tools be a starting point? No, absolutely not. For simplicity and hotkey is please. Yes and no. So, well, no, to the first answer, no, absolutely. The developers actively try to use other popular software. No, well, I can't speak for all the developers, but at least I can speak for the developers at the Blender Animation Studio. The magic or the nice thing of having the developers here at the studio is that you have a team of artists working upstairs and a team of developers downstairs, so they can communicate, and they should communicate. Actually, we were talking about this week with Ton, and we are going to continue talking with the studio to make it even tighter. In the past, many of the features of Blender were added because of open movie projects, even like the compositor. It was added because of Elephant's Dream, the first open movie project. The fur was added because of Big Buck Bunny, and so on and so forth. Before it was, there was really no way of adding those features without spending a lot of time in it. Nowadays, there are areas of Blender that are very, very independent. There is the Grease Pencil tool, for example, that it's really that it's really independent. There is these 3 people, 4 with the volunteers as well, that work on the tools, and they are artists themselves, so it's very, very tightly connected, and they get feedback also from people using it professionally. The Blender Animation Studio has this group of artists that are giving feedback to the developers. Should still be improved more. With this is what we talked about this week. Actually today, even with we talked about making it a tighter connection between the developers and the artists. I think looking at other softwares can be maybe, yeah, inspiring, but it's also, it's like starting, like if you're a musician, you want to make a song, it's like listening to another song and start from there, in a way. It's like, yeah, it can have, you can get good ideas. Oh, that's a nice break. That's a nice bridge. Yeah, that's cool. But you need to understand your kind of music or your kind of way of using Blender, the Blender workflow, and how that tool would fit with the rest of Blender, because there is no other software in the market that has all the pipeline there for like doing from storyboard to the final video editing inside of the same software like Blender does. And we should use that. We should use that in our how do you call it, benefit, in our advantage. I got distracted. There is some spamming here in the chat again. That's why we shouldn't mention other softwares. It brings all the spammers. All right. Again, it's inspiring to look at other softwares. Of course, they do things well, but we can do better. We can do better. We have a larger community, and we can develop things in the open. That should give us the advantage to think, to develop and to think more outside of the box, to try new things that other companies can't, because they have a limited amount of users that they are in the beta program of their, and they can't even share what they work on. So we should use that at our advantage, that we can develop in the open and get feedback from everybody. We should do it for ourselves, for the Blender, for the Blender users. 16, I guess. Congrats with the release of UE to Rigify. When it's released by Epic, it's still a great achievement for Blender. Even if it's released by Epic, I'm so happy that I can't hold myself from writing this. Thanks for the amazing program. Yes, there is a Unreal Engine tool that works with Blender and Rigify. It was released recently, a few days ago. I don't know, where was it announced? Unreal Engine Rigify. So when was it? It was recently on Twitter, on Twitter of Unreal Engine. Twitter UI for memes. There's an account just for memes. Let's see if we can find it. It was somewhere here, posted recently. So Real should send the Unreal add-on here. There is a link. It's you need to be logged in with the yeah, unfortunately you have to be logged in with the Epic account on your, and link it to your GitHub account. I think it's because of a EULA for the terms of service and stuff. But yeah. Next. 17-ish. Hi Pablo, and you guys make a custom property that can generate buttons and functions as true or false rather than making it 0 to 1. Yes, checkboxes. That is yeah, basically custom properties. As you know, or if you don't know, custom properties allow you to have these special settings, properties that you can set on your materials or on your any kind of data block, from the scene, from the world. And here by default it's just a slider, but if you make it, for example, if you make it an array, for example, let's 0.2, what you're getting here is a subtype setting where you can change. It's a plain data, linear color, quaternions. So you can have color, for example, and then you get a color slider. How hidden is that feature? From 0 to hidden, too invisible. It's really hidden. But we should have something like if you do true, and then maybe you could have like a checkbox or so. I don't know. Or Blender could be a bit smarter and just expose those things. You know, when you make a new custom type, it should ask you like, hey, what do you want to add? Wouldn't it be nice? All right, 2 last questions. Hi Pablo, hope you find this finds you well. Yes, yes, pretty well. I was wondering if once the whole COVID thing quiets down, of course, there are any plans for regular community events taking place at or near the Blender Institute. I think it would be lovely to meet like-minded people who are also passionate about the community and to do fun stuff together. I'm thinking of things such as going for walks to find textures, photogrammetry stuff, maybe view and critique each other's work, or just go to Oedipus or something and have a chat or whatever. Thanks for the lovely broadcasts. Have a good one. Hey, thank you. Yes, that would be actually that could be fun. The Blender Studio, when there is not a global pandemic outside in the world, usually has on Fridays the weekly meeting. So when there is a project going on at the studio, we invite people to come and have a drink with us at the studio and see what we worked on when there is not a pandemic going on. So that is not going on at the moment, but that should be back at some point eventually in life. Hopefully. Then about the walks to find texture, photogrammetry stuff, maybe view and critique each other's work. There is a an Amsterdam meetup, so maybe that's better. Especially I think if you're Dutch, maybe you're gonna find more Dutch people there. But the Amsterdam meetups are a thing, and they happen pretty often actually. If you look Amsterdam Blender meetups, yeah, there is an Amsterdam Blender 3D meetup group on meetup.com. And the last question. Hi Pablo, thanks for doing so well, being the voice of Blender. Thank you very much. Can you speak a bit about Blender's production tool Attract? There is not a whole lot about it online, I guess because it's connected to the cloud subscription. It looks like it'll help a lot in keeping track of shots. Will Attract be continued or we will replace? That's a very good question. Because, all right, so there's not a whole lot about it online. That's correct and not so correct actually. If you search, there is a you can use Attract actually, and there is Attract.studio that it has its own website, so there is some info around it basically. And there is a demo video that you can see, and this is the old UI, but we've been using it for the films here at the studio. We use it for Spring, we use it for the Agent 327 project, and it's being continued to use. However, it is having it with the Blender Cloud subscription is the easiest way to use it, but it's open source. You could run it on yourself by yourself, but it needs some you need to know. There are instructions on the website, but there are documentation, but you need to know a little bit about it, how to get it up and running. There is even a docs here where you can read the installation and the development. Speaking of development, there is in production right now a new version of Attract. Yes, there is a new version of Attract. It's completely rewritten from scratch. It's more thinking of the broad like task management and shot management and linking it with actual assets, and all of that is being worked on at the moment, and it will be used for the next short film by Blender. So in the next year you're gonna be listening about it, and as soon as we have any news I'm gonna share it here, or we can even make a video on the Blender Cloud or Blender Animation Studio YouTube channel. Did you know that we have, because we don't have enough channels, we have a Blender Animation Studio YouTube channel, which is the one where we published the open movies recently and the things that are coming from the studio, such as the free Blender rig of Rain. I can't even speak anymore. But it's been 1 hour, exactly 1 hour, 20 questions or so. Actually, some of the questions have multiple, so I overdid it this week. I hope you had fun. It was fun for me. How is the chat going? How is everything going here? Yeah, bro, wanna create endless runner game with cartoon figures. Sorry, Pablo, gotta go check out the PS5 controller. Wow, there is a PS5 controller going on. Awesome. All right, thank you everybody. It's been amazing. Another week. Do you still like this format? Do you think we should change? We should go back to whatever? I haven't posted any new features in Blender this week because this week was the bug fixing sprint. In the code blog, you're gonna find more information about it, but basically there will be a periodic fixing period in every Blender release. So this is how it used to be. This is the current system, and the proposal is to have a period of 2 weeks for bug fixes, only bug fixes, no new features, just making Blender stable and work. So that is super important. It's not the most exciting, of course, because yeah, I mean, it's nice to just sharing new features every week, but it's also nice when they don't crash, right? So a balance, it's the answer. Thank you everybody for staying until the end. It's been a pleasure. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're gonna blow your ear holes with the song that goes with everything. Gile, Street Fighter theme. Gracias everyone, it's been amazing. See you next week, same place, same time for another Blender Today. Every day, today, every day.